to do. And then, yeah, put your name down. I'm going to put my name down here and guess your position. You can tag them later after you see others also putting their name down. And then let's see where the clusters form, if at all. Just a nice ability to see if you're able to access the Miro board itself and able to play around with it. Yeah, today, meanwhile, while some people are doing that, I will go through quickly the agenda board. At the first glance, I will give a quick tour of what is Beyond MVG, what is governance framework, and gonna open up more of this Miro board, describe what's visible. And then right after that, if we don't have any like clarifying questions, we will review the charts that are being opened up, and then we have like initial reactions and scoping for further inspection. So seeing where like we want to bring this discussion, and based on people's interest here who are in the call, we will choose like our target location and dashboards we want to dive deeper into. And then I will show you the website where we brought the same dashboards in and added some kind of like functionality and interactiveness where we can provide sentiment and rationale. That exercise is also 5 minutes. Not everything can be done at that time, but yeah, let's see how far we get. But that also gets into more of us into thinking, and the rest of the session we will be discussing the insights and outputs we recognize in the website itself and what we bring forth. Yeah, and in previous sessions we also went over time, so if some people want to stay, I have time, and maybe some team members also have time to continue if we want to. So yeah, I think we are now slightly in the stage where welcoming the agenda is we have reached to that point. I'm going to share the Miro board link again. Welcome Kintama and Shagrax. I dropped the Miro board link where you can put your name down and in this 2D chart to create your own based on like how experienced you are in Cardano governance, and do you prefer like independently doing the governance or collectively? Yeah, starting with yeah, are we recording? It does say recording, but is it AI recording or is it actual recording?
It's Google Meet recording.
Okay, great. Well, today in 24th March, me and 13 other people here joined in the Cardano framework session, or governance framework analysis workshop session, where we are going to, well, basically as a Beyond MVG team, we got funded from the Cardano Treasury to address some of the on-chain metrics, pull them up, create some standards, and also listen to the community and their like pain points in interacting with the Cardano governance. And a month ago, or maybe now even 2 months ago, don't quite remember when, we had these insight workshops where we also took some qualitative insights. And meanwhile, in the background, we were working on like pulling the on-chain data and creating the dashboards. We have started, so now we're in this milestone 3 stage where we are putting that analysis together from qualitative and the on-chain stuff. And now we're in the midway, so it's not quite complete yet, but it felt like a good place to start to show what we have already and include you into this co-creative process of feeling out like what are the metrics saying to us, what should we focus on, what are the like prompt questions we should answer, and something that is really like popping out and we need to be aware of. Okay. We have this workshop here. The governance framework itself, and that is, yeah, I just realized I didn't add, I don't know, do we have a new framework yet? but based on the milestone 2 progress report, there should be this report outline and framework documents. Yeah, so these ones, Ratios Guarded Measurement Framework and Metrics Manual. So those who want to dive deeper into that, they have the tools here. I wonder if the Beyond Linktree is not here. Let's see if I can also, maybe somebody already noticed that, but in the Linktree itself, you will find also different surveys that are asynchronously still collecting. And at the bottom here, there are these context documents, the report itself, the framework, and finally, actually, in the last one is Beyond MVG GPT, that's ChatGPT, which is embedded with all of the documents that we also have there, if you just want to have a conversation with the data for a starting point. Now, zooming out the Miro board, I'm going to unlock this data module side. Here we have brought these pictures of these dashboards. In the governance metrics, you will recognize there are 4 main categories. One is other holder metrics, then is another one is DRep metrics, SPO metrics, and where is that? Well, technically there is one more metric, but that's hidden, the CC, like the Constitutional Committee metrics. But because it was missing timeline, it didn't make it here. We created some of like social and news, and few just something that we noticed in the network that a lot of news or attractions, even some of the coin market cap news, I brought them here to kind of have, and this is something we can also as an exercise do it ourselves and come up with like the social events that they had in our network when we do governance and see has these activities had any change the way our like governance metrics changed. We also put in here this other price chart with a little bit of the other like token allocations, and that was to compare if like price changes affect our governance. And the current observation is like if it does it very little, and mostly it's more like a social network that is happening here. And then at the top here, there is this governance actions timeline, which I brought in with all of these green sticky notes, the main kind of governance actions that took place. Sometimes this is like a group of governance actions happening at the same time, so I put them as a white sticky notes around them. And then these arrows indicate like specific times when these governance actions are put in forth. And that kind of gives us idea of, okay, here are we starting to talk about Cardano constitution to replace the interim constitution. Then we have visioning discussions. Then we are talking a lot about net change limit. Then we're getting the ecosystem budgets in. Then we're doing the treasury withdrawals. And so basically like thematic way to compare stuff. Then on the right side, made few of these metrics on their own. So it's easier to kind of drag and drop between all of us or on top of each other. And I see we already, there has been like a lot of overlaps been done, and which is also a way to find correlations. So yeah, this is for now. I think this is a good starting point, a lot of information to take in. And I see already a few more people joining in, so I'm going to share the Miro board again. And I was thinking that we take like 5 minutes or so to just individually go through these graphics, check through these sticky notes, and yeah, write down either next to these places itself your own notes or in the chat, and feel like what kind of stands out. If you have any clarifying questions, now it's a good place to ask. And then, yeah, we can cover that. Or until that, I think maybe at 17, 18, we open up floor for discussions and like the first insights that we find from these measurements. 5 minutes or so has passed. does anybody want to kick off with their first impressions? I see that not many of you reached even to the bottom, but even with the amount of time given right now, what was the first impression from the on-chain information and these sticky notes that you have found? All right.
I'll save you, Tavo. I got you, bro. Man, from first up, I can definitely say that we got a bit of a retention problem with our DReps.
And which chart kind of brings that forth for you the most?
The active DRep participation, net change.
But do you think this is just because our governance is bootstrapping, or this is because we are like people are getting paid up and just don't want to deal with this anymore?
I would be remiss to say it's for any one particular reason. I think that this is probably a multitude of factors contributing to the decline, if that makes any sense. And, you know, we probably should, as Scooby-Doo would say, get to the bottom of this.
Very cool. And yeah, later, I guess we could dive more into this. But Kintama, you had your hand up. Do you also want to think what you found?
Yeah, I was looking at the price impact, the last one. So what I noticed is that how DReps viewed the governance action when the price was above 50 cents, and how the later it has been affecting the decisions. So that's something like if we go exactly a year back, we were almost at $1. Now we are 70% down. So the talks around budgets are way more prudent and more conservative than previous year.
Yeah, one of the observations was that like a lot of price action started with the net change limit discussions.
Yeah.
But it's compared to I don't know other networks here, this like small foggy chart at the bottom, where this blue line basically is showing the deviation from the rest of the market or blockchain market. And it is interesting in a sense that this epoch 555 until 575, 65 and to 75, 65 to 75. This is our, okay, this is actually treasury withdrawal section where a lot of action is happening. And the price is slightly going down compared to market. But as soon as we finish stuff, we are actually performing better than rest of the market at that point. But then we have a huge way down.
Gini coefficient of DReps. Yeah, it shows that we are, even though we are one of the governance chain, but we have less coefficient than even some Uniswap and some other DAOs. And I'm not sure why was South Africa taken as a base for comparison here.
I think it'd be good if we talk about the Gini coefficient a little bit and how to kind of understand it. A Gini coefficient of 1 means there is perfect inequality. So this is measuring the equality of voting power in the system. So if we had a 1, that would mean that like one person has all the voting power. If we have a 0, that means every single voter has the exact same voting power, whether there's one of them, whether there's 2,000 of them. And then in the middle is kind of the everything in between. And essentially the DAOs, what we see is most other large DAOs. So this baseline came from measuring, I think, 10 large DeFi DAOs. I can post the link in once I'm done talking if people want to go see that. Are sitting at 0.99, and Cardano is sitting at 0.93 at the end of this measurement period. So that means we have better equality in our system than most of the largest DAOs in the Web3 space. It's also something where the number can change for different reasons. So we could see our Gini coefficient actually increase if we have a small DRep entering our ecosystem. So that's something that we would consider generally, I think, to be a positive thing. More DReps are entering, even small ones, but that would force our Gini coefficient in an upwards trend. And I think that's our primary analysis of why this is heading in the upwards trend from when we started. So this one, I think, takes some careful consideration as to like, why is it moving, to better understand what it's actually telling us.
And I found like maybe if there was another metric that how many of the roles correlate, like how many DReps are SPOs and how many SPOs are DReps, it could give us more proper concentration of power, which is
And the
kind of difficult.
CC, for sure.
Yeah, even the CC, because this would give us better, like how many people are actually controlling. Because if you just here, I feel that the charts are showing each individual as a separate individual, like an SPO. Like I know, like there are so many DReps who are also SPOs, and both the ways, and also kind of CC members. So it is, they're also very big vote swingers, right? Their vote can change how a governance action passes or not. So that metric would be more helpful to better understand the Gini coefficient in its totality than just say putting it in one in a governance thing.
Okay, well, we have now a bit of looking into the charts, a slight opening, and based on this opening, I recognized that we are in this DRep section, and I'm looking at a little bit of that price chart. Now I would like to reveal the website. Let's see if I governance features. I'm going to drop this link here. So this is a bit of like vibe coding action in place, because there is option to play around in the Miro board itself and add sticky notes there. But thought maybe it's more easier for people to use a website for that. You don't have to use an account. The session key you're using, so you can to like start to make accounts by refreshing and clearing your browser history. But I assume we are not here to do that and play the game. But instead, what you're gonna see here is at the top, like 3 panels. We're gonna let's see how far we get to use. Right now, there is let's dive into this metrics chart part. There are 4 tabs here. All of these tabs are showing the same charts we had it in the Miro board. And now if we open up, for example, the DRep metrics section, so let's say we address this DRep metrics part, you will find here like opening questions. What are we like looking, or what do we want to answer from this chart? You are able to add your own questions if you want. And then there are some chart findings that our team has put together, or somebody, if you want, you can also add your own finding or observation by adding it into the list. And then there is a final option here is like 3 icons. All of them are grayed out. And the idea is that to measure that, like, okay, the Gini has risen gradually from this amount to this amount. Nevertheless, Cardano compares favorably to other large DAOs. Although the number of active DReps grew, the Gini coefficient still rose. And now the question is that good that it goes up, or is it bad that it goes up? And yeah, in our case, we want, I guess, that to go down, I assume. And then, yeah, so everybody can, like, these are like different questions, and you come with your own perspective building. Then there is this sentiment map of like how easy it is to change this, like, oh, we want to have a target of 0.8 in Gini coefficient. Now, how do we achieve that? Is that easy to find or hard to find? So this is the top down, and then this is the low impact, high impact. So how much impact it has, in your opinion, if based on like the number it takes, and that can be addressed in a way like, okay, it's a good marketing opportunity, or it's like a technical visibility that we need to achieve. And yeah, and then you basically just use your own instinct to choose the chart. And of course, you can add rationale why you think that, and this will help us to qualify this information even further. And so happens with every single one of them. And if you don't know, there's a button to I don't know, and that's also a valid option. Like the middle one, or I don't know, is something that sometimes people just don't know, and that's also an insight for us. And just so for you can go through the different charts, and I don't know, let's give it like a 5 minutes and see how far we get with that. And yeah, at the end we will be able to see the like the collective results, and if multiple people choose here, you can see how we as collective think of it. So a bit of gamification of this, and if anybody has questions or problems in the website, this is the point to ask clarifying questions or help or guidance. And yeah, meanwhile, with this time, I also will then take my time to provide this sentiment myself. Let's just give it another 5 minutes, and it's then 17:37. We open up another roundtable, starting with Vanessa, if she wants. Okay, at least 5 minutes has passed. I'm gonna close my finding. Okay. Does summary provide us anything? Oh, well, there are some stuff happening. At least everybody took up the first section, and we recognize that the Gini coefficient, and with everybody feeling like it's not going great, and it is something very hard to, or not very hard, but somewhat hard to address. Okay, one is just testing as a rationale. And then we have a bit of Gini coefficient information. Everybody recognize this is bad. Some recognize it's very bad. But again, like it's unclear how can we solve it. And there are two suggestions. This to me shows that new entrants to delegation to DReps are choosing DReps that already have large amount of stake. This will continue centralize over time. So already recognizing that this is going to have a future impact the more this stays like that. And then the most unequal countries in the world had Gini coefficient around 0.63, while major DAOs routinely score between 97 to 99 percentage. And this means DAO governance is orders of magnitude more unequal than traditional political systems, revealing structural failure in how blockchain governance has been implemented. Very nicely written insight. I have one more here, Nakamoto coefficient one. Find recognizes it's probably easy. I think we need far more people to be able to feel like it's decentralized, like 100 area right now. I guess it's Nakamoto is like 20 or something. That's this chart here. Yeah, it's depending on the type of governance action.
Just to add on that table, so the Nakamoto coefficient. So how many DReps is needed to control governance action. Like if you take all the biggest DReps and they gather together and vote, but that's absolute, let's say, worst case scenario for a governance. How much DReps is needed to gather together to pass a hard fork or throw out the sitting Cardano Constitution members in a vote of no confidence, or funding development of Cardano through a treasury withdrawal, just for example.
Yeah, and this is why it's also moving in tandem, because they have different thresholds when they trigger an enacted inversion. Okay. And then we have, oh, they are not all one chart. Okay, there are different charts people are going through. Yeah, okay, all the owners charts. I don't know, does somebody else want to kind of speak of their notes or their rationales? I don't know who has done like other owner stuff. Or perhaps we continue with the roundtable where we were left off. And the entire screen has changed for me. So on the left side, I don't remember, Vanessa, do you want to share what do you have seen so far? What do you have understood? Do you have any questions?
What you mean in general, or about this particular bit that we're looking at?
In general, for now.
Mhm.
Or yeah, you can choose your general bit.
I mean, one thing that occurred to me, I'm seeing quite a lot of things said in various bits of all this about DRep Rationales. And yeah, generally they are a good thing, but I do think maybe we need to look a bit at the quality of rationales, because sometimes I do see DReps giving a rationale that doesn't really make any sense or doesn't really explain their thinking at all. It's just for the sake of putting something down. So a rationale in itself is not useful unless it actually explains your thinking. And I do see quite often people don't seem to understand what that even means, to explain your thinking. So you get tautological things or circular arguments or whatever. The other thing is just, I've seen a few comments about pluralism, and I don't think we have any. I mean, we never have had, well, in the early days we did have, but now I don't see it at all. I see increasing convergence, and it feels like those who don't align with whatever the majority view is are just giving up and going away. I see a lot of references to the will of the people, as if we are one undifferentiated mass. And, you know, in effect, we are. Like, you don't have any power unless your voice actually aligns with everybody else's. And, yeah, it's just unfortunate that we're still plutocratic and we're still obsessed with majority rule. So,
Liti Records, what have you learned so far with these charts, with these statements, and with the workshop in general?
Sure. So I'm still digesting a lot of it. I think a lot of us have mentioned that. But what I will say, what I've at least narrowed my focus in is just in the socials and the news. So I'm just looking at that. It's a little bare, what kind of events are we looking for? And I'm kind of looking at that in retrospect to, kind of everything as a whole, because, we talk about, just having a larger group of people and just what that means to this ecosystem. So, getting more people involved, new people, not keeping the same people, like that's the thing. I feel like that's been the name of the game, is expansion and transparency. So those are some key points for me.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, everybody who feels like they shared something that is meaningful, had an impact, they found the news that was our article, all of that can be put there as a sticky notes, and preferably within no time frame. And then we just have able to kind of do the correlation maps even further. Yeah, as a reminder for, I guess, only you better actually who joined here later. We are doing it. It's a active process that analysis still is happening. It's just that we open this up a bit to also for community to provide their insight, their standing, their observations, so that we can know where do we need to add less stuff, where we need to get more qualitative information to deepen our research. Maureen.
Yeah, I figured I should say something. I noticed that on the DRep delegation change rate chart, there is something really interesting there. So the average change rate is only 0.14% per epoch. So it means that across the entire epoch of 537 to 609, fewer than 2 in every 1,000 stake addresses change their DRep in any given epoch. That's interesting. And then there are visible burst events. We have sharp spikes around epochs 548, 558, 573, and 600. It means that delegation changes are event-driven rather than just continuous. And it makes, I saw on the coordination manager, you asked a question on the stickiness. Why do we think that people stick to their DReps? So it makes this question actually very urgent. If people are, yeah. So that was my observation. And there is also so the change is the average change rate, is it positive or concerning? I think at this level it's a bit concerning because the number is so low, it almost certainly cannot be explained by a genuine conviction alone. Just think about the fact that Cardano has been through significant governance events in this period. We have budget proposals, we have hard forks, so many controversial votes, and even those barely move the needle past 0.3%. So the spike events to me are very interesting because it's telling us that delegators can respond. They just almost never do. I think this pattern is more consistent with structural inertia rather than the.
I wonder though, it does say here, let's say in the 445 or something, it's 40%, but 40% of what? Because that would mean that half of entire Cardano changed the delegation address. Almost half. But here and the average is 0. Okay, so it's 0.04. Okay, so yeah, I get it. So it's not, yeah. It's decimal points off by 100. Yeah, okay, then yeah, totally. Maybe one person, two people knowing. And I guess that's related to this qualitative assessments we have regarding the people don't even know how to change the DReps. With Yoro and Wallet, they knew how to delegate automatically, but now they don't know how to change it. But that is a huge factor, probably. But does that mean we want this to go up a lot? And right now it's not good. Well, thank you for your feedback. Vanessa, you have a hand up.
Yeah, I was just like riffing on what you were saying, Maureen. I think that's dead interesting. And it makes me wonder, because I don't feel like I really know, how do people choose, why do they choose a particular DRep and why do they change if they change? Because like you could see it as a positive that you choose a DRep because you think, yeah, they align with what I believe. And if you don't feel the need to change, then that's possibly because they were transparent about who they are and you don't feel that you've had a nasty shock as to what they actually stand for and they haven't done things that you didn't expect. But yeah, it may not be that. I mean, obviously, we've got to look at how easy people find it to change if they want to and whether they know how. But I don't think it's actually that difficult or that unclear to know how. So can we really assume that people are not changing because they don't know how? Or can we assume that it's laziness and inertia, like you were saying? It is really low, but I don't know that we can assume that much about why, because my sense is that people choose a DRep almost like because they see them, that's almost like my mate, that's somebody that I align with, and almost whatever they do, they'll just go, yeah, all right, carry on. I think people, I suppose what I'm saying is I don't know if people get or feel that there is any power in changing. It's almost like, yeah, so that's not going to affect anything. Especially people who are not massive ADA holders. It's like, well, what difference is it going to make if I bugger off to another DRep?
Really, you finally find the words.
Yeah, I've finally solved my technical issues. I don't want to ramble on too long about this, but I mean, it's something that I've been saying for quite a long time with our governance structure. When it comes to looking for DReps, I think we made a pretty significant mistake right off the hop, because we basically just went straight into like a governance structure, like an old school, we're just going to let you go ahead and basically campaign for votes, which I think for a blockchain ecosystem is absolutely the wrong approach. So we should have gone with much more of a meritocratic kind of approach to DReps in terms of making voters kind of look at how a DRep actually presented their votes and make that the crux of how they choose the voting system. I actually recently saw a brand new tool that I've barely seen shown to anyone. I think it's called Civitas, which actually looks at DReps through meritocratic metrics to see which one you would like to look for. I think if we had that like right off the beginning, we wouldn't have all these issues, because now basically the vast majority of people that I think are looking for DReps basically find somebody they like on social media, usually X. They look at someone that they are basically like, oh, I like the way this person talks, which is just basically politics. That's just how things work. And then they go ahead and delegate to them. That is a recipe for disaster in a plutocratic system, right? Because we are in a plutocratic system. We don't have a choice. That's just how the blockchain operates. So, but in that system, you combine that with politics and you're just going to wind up with centralization. There's no way around it. So I really think the push that we need to be doing is around tooling and showing people that there are options out there to quickly and efficiently find people that actually are doing the job well, not necessarily people who are out there on social media, like, blasting messages every day so they can get thousands and thousands of followers, because unfortunately that's where we're at.
Maureen?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. You said most of what I wanted to say, and I just I would like to add a bit on what you said, is that I think the fundamental problem is DRep selection is a low information decision. So let's say you want to choose a DRep. What do you have access to? You have access to a name or a handle, and sometimes a bio, which is usually short. Some DReps don't even have that. And then maybe a voting record if the DRep has voted, and if the holder knows how to find and interpret it. So when you put all of that together, it's a remarkably thin information environment for something as important as choosing a DRep. So you compare that to how people choose their SPOs. There are very specific things that you look for. You look at the fee comparisons, you look at the saturation indicators, you look at the uptime records, all of that. And DRep selection has almost none of that equivalent scaffolding yet. So I think, what we know about how people choose is that they trust institutional affiliation proxies. So if I have if I want to choose a DRep and Cardano Foundation is a DRep, I am very likely to select Cardano Foundation. And it also adds to the, well, not me, but you know, it adds to the fact that people choose who they know, like my friend there said.
Delegate, yes.
Yes. I have a kind of a broad question and well, outsider question. Is the Cardano network, does it have any goal, or is just a process? Like, are you moving somewhere towards, okay, decentralized? I get this one, but how can I feel something that something changed in my life after joining or being part of the system?
I can just talk briefly about that, Giveth. So we have something called Cardano Vision 2030. It consists, like, so, of a lot of workshops all around the world in 2025. There they kind of like put forward like the North Star of the direction where the Cardano ecosystem is going. So I hope that, and there are a lot of different subcategories. There is marketing, there is like Cardano blockchain as a product. So there are many different categories that they align with. So you might say that, let's say if there is a request for a treasury withdrawal that's totally outside of that North Star direction, I would, unless it's a very, very brilliant idea that nobody thought of, it would probably get rejected by the DReps because they have come together and aligned around this direction.
Okay, dropping the exact link here in the chat on that. I recognize we haven't heard from everybody in this call. Pseudoscientist, do you also want to share some of the insights of what you learned from dashboards, what kind of boggled your mind, or what we need to focus on?
Yes, so I had made the comment earlier about the 0.63 Gini coefficient that the most unequal nation has scored. And I think here this is a huge failure in governance in itself, because if we're centralized at the top, every decision kind of already hasn't been the voice of the community at large. And the fact that so many of our decisions are made now with pretty high stakes, this is probably the biggest contributor to why participation has continued to decline. I mean, Cardano was engineered from the get-go to restrict DRep participation. And I think this was another huge failure, right? Because, we can talk about rationale, we can talk about centralization of DRep, stickiness, and everything. The biggest idea is that individuals do not have a say. It's representative governance, right? And if it really doesn't make sense to say that one person wholeheartedly agrees with the single DRep, right? We have views on every single issue, and we're kind of forced into making ternary decisions and a lump sum delegation to one person, hoping that they make the decision that they might. And people don't care about rationale. People care, did you vote yes, no, or did you abstain? And did it align with what I wanted to vote? And I think if we had a mechanism to where individuals were more clearly declaring what their vote was, I think we would see a better participation. But all of these things contribute to a verifiable metric that individuals do not have a say in this ecosystem. And regardless of how we change the rules and the players on the board, the fact of the matter is reiterating the same data. And if we want to change that, there's structural differences that need to be implemented at the protocol level, in my opinion, because I mean, we could say, oh, you know, Ethereum and all these other DAOs, MakerDAO is 0.99 and we're 0.93. Like this is some kind of badge of honor. This is a complete failure of blockchain ideals altogether. If we are worse off by magnitudes than the most unfair traditional nation, what are we actually building towards here? And I think, you know, we tend to try to set our side from other ecosystems like Ethereum. We have, oh, we're peer reviewed and everything, but we tend to copy the wrong things from the other ecosystems. And, you know, DAO governance, I think we had an opportunity to observe new ways of doing things. And I think what the numbers tell us is that we have not achieved our desired outcome. In forget decentralization, we have not diversified power structures in a way that is meaningful to individual holders.
Pin?
Yeah, I just want to comment on that as well as I do. So, in regards to Gini coefficient, we are it's interesting that so in DAOs, you know, you have to go and buy a token, and you actually have to invest. Let's say go into it. Here, you know, governance comes out of the box as a natural part of Cardano's ecosystem. And we see that when even large, let's say, DAOs like Uniswap and Compound, you see a very, very low, let's say, participation rate from the voting power. That if you compare it to Cardano. And bear in mind, we have just been going on for a year, and we almost now have like 100,000 stake addresses. That is, let's say, participating. So in my opinion, I must say, in hindsight, that we are very young. It's a very, very young governance. We are not that bad, but I at least from other surveys and what we have found, I think it was Eli that mentioned that this like the biggest barrier for the ADA owner to, let's say, participate, which is basically what gives governance legitimacy. It's all the toolings that are so fragmented all over the place, and definitely not where you are interacting with the blockchain, which is your wallet. So there is room for improvement. And also a last one observation, and that's more like a question to the community. So in the net change in Active DRep Count, you see there is a lot of retirement, but there is also a lot of inactive DReps. Do you guys think it's hard to get them active again? And what can we do to get inactive DReps active again? That's my question.
Do we really care to have DReps that are going to go inactive? You know what I'm saying? Like, that just doesn't make sense. You know, let them go inactive, let them retire, get active participation.
Yeah, I wondered here, maybe is the question, did the inactive people, are they redelegating or moving their stake around, or are these now like stagnating the not used rewards? But yeah, Kindama.
Yeah, first point, Keneric, I disagree with you on some point when you call governance is young for on Cardano. I wouldn't say it is not young. It is just it was not focused enough to help it grow fast enough. because it is not, like these problems that we are seeing right now, these are things that were already raised previously, even during the initial draft of the constitution. These have been raised at various points, but again, the focus of, due to the power in minimum hands, the focus was never on these particular points, so that there was no action taken on them. Now we are doing, we find these surveys and stuff that the concentration of power and deciding power is in very few hands, but it has always been raised before, and no action was taken in the previous year to mitigate this upcoming future. Right? It is not like it is a growing pain or learning. No, these were questions raised even before it was born into action. And second point, I'm coming on the inactive part, right? The DReps will not be active unless they can really attract the delegation to them, because they, I've seen DReps who have been very acting in their voting rationales, in their voting behavior, right, in their communication also, but at the end of the day they are not able to get the volume uh, on the only platform that you have, is that is X, where they can voice out their rationale, because not everyone is looking at the tools on chain data and stuff, right? Because it is not easily available on their wallets or on their phone, where just one click and they get the data. No, right? So only X, and X is a platform which gives more value to people with more followers than something, which is not people will look into. So that is one point where, if we want to bring inactive people, we need to bring those people's rational voting behavior to one click on the wallet, where people who have ADA can see it easily instead of looking at X, because X will only show a few voices amongst the thousands of people talking every day. So the communication needs to improve, people to really talk to each other, understand how we can move it. So I think that's one thing we need to improve on, that is communication on both ways.
Thanks, Intama.
Petro?
Well, I think I'm going to touch on a number of topics that were touched on recently, but overall, the note I wanted to touch on is a bit. I feel like we're doing too much. We're focusing too much on like the health of the DRep class on Cardano, and not so much on the quality of the voting. Of for example, that when you have each governance action that happens is an opportunity to have education sharing and knowledge grooming in the community about that proposal, and out of that we could strengthen dependency, or like the delegations or things like that, but especially trust between people in Cardano. So I don't usually subscribe so much to the DRep. I focus on voters. Everyone is a voter, and so when any person that owns ADA has an understanding of a governance action, so if we raise the average understanding of people have around topics, it's going to improve the outcome of the votings. So that's one of the main points for me, to focus on tooling for voters, not just for DReps, and to engage each, whether it's a delegator or a direct voter or a DRep, they all should be able to have more visibility on what has been happening with governance actions, meaning, for example, articulating rationales, so referencing each other's rationales and building upon it, disputing it and getting clarification on it. All that, I think, signals trust, and that is something that, because it's all on chain, we could start modeling and analyzing. So yeah, my passion would be to create gov tools that are with that inspiration. With that in mind, if we have more civic engagement, I think overall we would get people participating more in governance. All this would yield more DReps even. And the KPI they have there is that, I think in one of your charts you're showing 16% of the ADA is participating in governance. So that's the elephant in the room for me. I'm not concerned about the DReps that have gone inactive or something like that. If they are within these 15%, I'm worry about the other, 85% that haven't been brought on board. Thanks. Oh, by the way, guys, I'm assuming you guys are going to end in a bit. Can I drop some links on the chat for a call that's starting now? I think CF has started running governance calls, so I'm just going to drop that in one that we are hosting at 45B as well.
Yeah, you can put the links down, sure.
Thank you.
And I will include them in my report. Because I think channeling people where the governance discussions happen is an important one. And a good point on the clock, I try to bring it up in chat, but we may have go over time, and we did. I didn't still hear from everybody. I don't know, does Nikhil, Mubarak, or Fanny, do you want to open your mic and share something from your own experience?
Sorry, I can't speak very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I can't speak very much because I'm currently feeling a bit under the weather. But I love the conversation so far, and it's great contribution. I'm going to be going through all the past works. I've downloaded all the links and saved it. So I'm going to be going through all the past works so that I can effectively contribute in future meetings. Thank you.
Thank you too. Thanks for joining. Well, with this, I think I'm going to then, before that, on the last note, what Pedro mentioned regarding 50%, I think it was yesterday when Ben mentioned, like majority of the ADA is stuck in centralized exchanges, and they have no way of doing like voting or delegating. So is this something of a solution we want to kind of think of in terms of like partnership with like big like Kraken or Binance to give them a standard of how they should make an option for choosing the DReps? Or is that now conflicting against with some of the discussion having here that we don't want more people making more DReps choices because they get rewards because of that, and we need a better mechanism to like up-level the DReps we already have to make them put qualitative like rationales, assess their quality in some sense, and have them like go through some kind of either a community or a rigorous process before they are in sense like whitelisted to wider centralized exchanges and or community in general. Of course, it's an open ecosystem. People can delegate wherever, but they're and especially in these like centralized pockets where the big amount of money is sitting, do we want some kind of alignment there in a sense of which DReps get to be chosen or like even be listed? Yes, Shaggy.
Yeah, I was wondering, where can I put my feedback, like my written feedback here? I'm not sure where in the process I was supposed to do that because the other side of the Miro board never unlocked for me. And then the other link, I'm not sure if I was supposed to be answering questions or what, but Tabo, that is not the takeaway I got from this at all. And I would like to be able to provide my takeaways in written form to somebody so that I can say, yes, I did provide you guys my feedback and that I was heard, right? Because I don't feel like with all of the stuff that's been said, people are going to be heard here. You know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense. I would like somewhere I can be sure my input is heard.
As this meeting, I will do work on this and create a meeting summary out of that. Regarding the Miro board, the left side I was supposed to keep closed. So adding, I think like the sticky notes on the right side where the dashboard is like where it's needed. What happens here in the left side is basically what's happening here on the website itself. So you can also put statement here. There is also the governance statements that we didn't get to. You can create your own rationale or like your own statement and then write it here. It's still a bit of like experiment in a sense, but I will be looking through this one and keeping that open for at least until the ideation session in milestone 4. And
Okay,
yeah,
so for clarification, I should go over there to the statements section of that link and then create statements. Is that what you would like?
that would be one option. Yes, if you
All
are
right.
able to do this. It's a bit more technical compared to Miro board if you put a sticky note down. But I will be capturing here in voice, and everything that has said before in this call will be recognized.
No, that's cool with me, Tavo. I appreciate it. I'm gonna use that link. I actually like that. I think it looks kind of cool. There's some cool thingamadoos there. So I'll go use that. I appreciate the meeting. Thank you for the call. Thank you for the invitation, y'all. It's great to hear from everybody. Keep it up, y'all.
Yep, and the same goes for everybody else. If you want to give asynchronous feedback, the Miro board will stay open. And at some point, probably the citation section will be also opened up totally and not closed at all. But yeah, it's all of the work that Beyond MVG is doing. We are doing it at the same time. And now we just included you all into this kind of thinking and opportunities so that we make sure that we don't miss important concerns and we see that we're doing the right thing. And yeah, the website backend is like just a structured way to also assess and then qualify our statements of what each individual says. But yeah, in general, this page itself probably at some point will be consolidated into a report and removed, or maybe separated out into a different tool altogether, because technically it's a coordination manager, not a Cardano governance dashboard. Yeah. Again, thanks from me for joining, giving your feedback. I have finished this workshop. Somebody else wants to take final notes, say something, provide feedback on the workshop itself, the tools themselves. This is perfect time to share it. Meanwhile, I will quietly watch you how you either leave or give me feedback.
I got
Thank you, everybody.
See you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Tavo, and everyone.
Yes, guys. Is Vanessa still here? Oh, she's gone. Okay.